Thanks, guys.
Here we are live again. Thank you everybody for your patience and technical difficulties and all that fun stuff. Week number 91. I mean, you think we'd have it down by now, but there's always something new and exciting around the corner. So great to have Facebook family and friends together with us once again for the tasting of the 3 C's. So if you notice on the bottles, the 3 Seascapes with the 3 C labels, C varietals. You see what I did there? There's another one. So tonight we have our owner and proprietor, Dr. Richard Becker, with us, as well as our winemaker, John Leahy, and myself, Bobby Totten. Glad to be in y'all's homes again to enjoy these beautiful wines. I believe the order we were going to do is the 2017 Counoise, the 2017 Carignan, and the 2017 Cinsaut.
I think you should switch the Cinsaut and Carignan.
Cinsaut and Carignan?
Yeah, make Carignan last.
Very cool. All right. That sounds beautiful. So, Dr. Becker, I want to hand it over to you and see what you think and beautiful words that you have.
So 91 or 92 weeks we've been doing this to remember and to thank and to salute the people fighting this terrible battle. After all these weeks, the virus keeps changing, keeps becoming more difficult. Now back to 200,000 new cases a day in the United States with the latest variant, the Omicron variant. And so the people that are sick are the ones who seem to be the sickest people who haven't had vaccine. This is the moment, if you haven't got the vaccine, to consider doing it and just to protect yourself in every way you can. But again, just a shout of thanks to all the people that are fighting this battle on the front lines. They were really tired of this, and we all are. And so this is also a moment. If you had to go out on the balcony and lower a bucket of wine down to somebody, I'd really be proud to lower these 3 wines down. These are fabulous wines. These wines were discovered by us on rounds. Not that John had discovered it before, but just tasting about a barrel, they were so wonderful that instead of getting the usual addition and making great Chateau to pop, we thought maybe let's bottle these individual. These were maybe the first time these grapes have been produced in Texas for the most part, and it's been a lot of fun. And great tribute to John for making this wine. So John, tell us about Counoise.
So red. See, you can see it. It's red.
Very.
Counoise is a great little varietal. It on its own, it lacks all the follow through that a richer wine or bolder wine would, but it's got so much fruit. It does have a fair amount of tannin structure in it. It's got a little bit more tannin than a Barbera, which is a nice rich red wine with virtually no tannin. But the Counoise itself offers a lot of fruit, and the blends, when we put it in blends, it's actually what we're doing is offering that structured fruit quality to that blend. I'm surprised that it's aged as long as it has in bottle. That's been a wonderful treat for us. I mean, in 2017 was an excellent year for Texas overall. Just about every varietal did well. The Counoise itself, the reason we put it in there is a lot of people don't know what it is. And so just by having it in a bottle, being able to discuss it, being able to taste it and try it, I tell people I did not want to put this in the bottle and make you think that this was a wine to end all wines. I wanted to put it in a bottle so you could have a very light red wine, structured red wine. It does finish rather quickly on the back of the palate. But what it offers is a chance to dive into something that you may not have ever had before and understand why it's so important when we make these beautiful Southern Rhone blends. This wine is just such a nice thing to have.
Well, in a part of the world where we eat Mexican and Tex-Mex food, if you're going to have wine with one of those, this would be happy to be a picnic. I mean, it's,
when we first bottled it, we did a fair amount of barbecuing, and this wine, really surprised me because it held up to that smoky structure. You know, especially when you do a long, slow smoke or barbecue, on, you know, having that really brilliant food with it, this wine actually held up to it. It did not lose itself. And I was worried about it because it when you first taste it, it is a very light wine, but it's got some power to it.
Mhm.
Really does.
Yeah. I would say these three, you know, of all three of these, I mean, and they're very good wines. Next year or so, I drink them now for sure. These are excellent wines, but what I found interesting about the Counoise when we first released it, Bobby, in the tasting room, was how many people, how many of our clients, our guests were comparing it. It's like, oh, it's kind of like Pinot Noir. I was like, yes, it's lighter like that. It is not a Burgundy. It is not meant to be structured as such, but really for somebody who was looking for a Pinot Noir and being able to give them the Counoise, we were able to find a midpoint in their palate with this wine.
Well, this got a lot of Burgundian treatment. I mean, this got wonderful French barrels and 2 years in barrel. And
Yes.
no, I think it has some Burgundian character.
I think, you know, Doc, I like the way you think on that barrel program. I think we should increase the barrel aging on things. I like that.
You know, I love to always think about the origin of how a grape got from where it was in Europe to be planted in Meadow, Texas, at the farmhouse vineyard. And they just did a beautiful job with this. And we've walked down the rows looking at the grapes with them, and that's a model Texas wine.
I was brilliantly excited when Anthony and Nick told me they'd planted some Counoise, and I couldn't wait for it to come to fruition. Yeah, and 17 was, you know, we had it in 16. 17 was the second year we got this, and it was just fantastic. Came on like a powerhouse, and everybody that looked at the grapes and they were surprised and trying to explain to them, those grapes are big. They're almost the size of table grapes when you look at them on the vineyard. I mean, you compare them to Merlot or Petit Verdot where the grape is like that, and these things are coming in like, you know, half the size of a quarter.
They're big, they're thin skinned, they're very late ripening.
Yes, they are.
The last grape we get in the winery.
Yeah, this is Carignan.
Yeah, all very late ripening. Jancis Robinson said this is a very old grape. It's probably related to Pickpool. The story that I love is that it was presented in the 14th century during the Schism to the French Pope Urban V by a papal officer whose name was Counoise. We think that's where Counoise came from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a great part of Châteauneuf-du-Pape. It's one of the 13 permitted species in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Great development in Chateau Laneuf in the 19th century, and by the Perrin family. Mm-hmm. They've really expanded their plantings and use of it. And then wonderful success at Tablas Creek. When I taste the Tablas Creek expressions of these grapes, they're not as delicate and floral and raspberry strawberry as this wine, John. Why is that?
Well, it's probably because they didn't put any of the strawberry cola in there. I
thought that was it. I just wanted to say it.
Well, you know, we have peach knee high, we have strawberry knee high. You name it. Actually, it takes a good oak barrel to bring out that delicate note in a good red wine. It really does. You can certainly get a lot of fruit forward from stainless steel, but if you want the nuance of the grape, you want the nuance of the wine, the barrel's the perfect match. You just can't replicate that at all. You just have to put it away, and you have to let it do its thing. And it really, I think, making wine teaches you patience, and someday I'm going to learn that lesson.
Well,
you know, that ratio of wine to oak really emerged during the Phoenician winemaking in the maybe 600 BC. That's where that volume, and it's amazing how it's held up. It would be much more efficient to put it in bigger barrels. It's done some in Italy, but
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing.
So what led you guys back in 600 BC to come up with the idea of the barrel?
Well, we were just sitting around the fire, Anyway,
Yeah.
Bobby has a great palate. Tell us what you're smelling and tasting here.
So yeah, no, I mean, on sight, on glance, you can see a little bit of the age coming through, just a hint, which is really cool. But the nose, I mean, definitely getting anise, so star anise, kind of showcases in there. A little bit of clove. Definitely getting that strawberry nose. But on the palate, I'm getting almost like that strawberry preserves, the cranberry. The fruit is still so prevalent, and it is really cool. This is just a really fun wine, and then that oak just kind of subtly showcases itself right on the finish with those little bit of the tannin structure. So like the dark chocolate, the tobacco, some currant notes as well, kind of sneak up in there.
There's some earthiness in this, some spice.
Yeah,
I think there's a whole.
Do you get a little bit of white pepper? A little bit of white pepper on that spice edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a hint.
We're always trying to work out the perfect pairing, and this pairs phenomenally well with cedar pollen.
Well, thank goodness we have that in spades right now.
I'm finding it they're great together. So
A little cedar fever and a glass of Counoise. I
It helps.
don't get much better.
This is the airborne.
Exactamente.
Brian asked, curious, what temp do you ferment at? Warm like Cab or cool like Pinot? Well, Brian, I'm going to go on a soapbox about fermentation temperature and probably going to step on everybody's toes between here and eternity. You certainly get different aspects on temperature. I think every red wine at some point in time needs to hit a good high peak of temperature, including Pinot. Needs to get some of that extract that you're not going to get at lower temperatures. And we're talking the difference between 78 and 84 degrees Fahrenheit. The Counoise was allowed to get up to the mid 80s during the peak of fermentation and come down. And it is pretty standard for most red wines that I do. Some red wines, if I want that real fruit forward characteristic, I will cool ferment below 78, between 75 and 78 to get the fruit and sacrifice some of the structure. But I will take a majority of that same lot in another fermentation tank and allow it to get up to the mid to upper 80s during the peak fermentation to get that structure. So the answer to your question is yes on both accounts. Some of this was cool fermented, some of it was allowed to warm ferment.
The bottle with the lights.
Yeah, and Jane just said, Doc, you don't mind cedar fever when you drink this wine. That's great.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you can join me, Brian, on my soapbox. Absolutely. There's plenty of room. Oddly enough, there's plenty of wine too.
But John, I am struck by, I remember tasting this out of barrel.
Yes.
2 or 3 years ago, and just struck by the strawberry note.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And I love the way this is incorporated. I mean, I almost think this is a wonderful wine. I think it's
right. I might lead you to that conclusion.
But John, you were sort of saying this is a wine that we ought to blend. We can make great blends with, but this wine is pretty interesting, and the balance of alcohol, mineral, fruit. I love it. That's all I can say.
Well, we actually have another vintage of this coming out this spring. I know I'm not supposed to spoil the surprise, but I am the kind of person that likes to unwrap their gifts and then rewrap them before Christmas.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, but we do, we have a follow-up vintage to this that I'm kind of getting excited about. So we're doing it just a little bit more for fun.
Nice. That'll be 18 vintage.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. It the 18 vintage has the fruit, but it's got a little bit more structure to it. The 18, I saignéed that tank a little bit heavy on the 18 to kind of increase that concentration. It's funny, just a couple percentage points of Saigné difference and how different the structure came out.
Wow.
Same vineyard, same quality and harvest. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to compare it.
You think there's a little bit more color extraction that came out of it as well?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was playing, just playing around, with the 18 harvest after the 17, and how concentrated the 17 was just naturally, because it had a long, cool arc of phenolic ripeness before we harvested, where the 18 came off a little bit earlier. So we took a little bit more Saigné out of that tank, and we did direct press a little bit of the Counoise this year for rosé as well for the 2021 harvest. So I decided to direct press several of our Rhone varietals and do traditional rosé, and then fermented them separately. And then this next month, I'm going to go back and start layering them together to come up with a very dry rosé. So we'll have fun with that.
That's
So
exciting.
this grape really does offer you a lot of variety.
That's so cool. I'm excited. All right.
Okay.
All right. Cinsaut? Is
Cinsaut,
Yeah.
if you say so.
If you say so with the Cinsaut.
Oh yes, I love the dusty nose on this.
Mm-hmm.
I was running late tonight, so I did not decant these as long as I needed to. So the Cinsaut is just now coming out of that little bottle funk. When I first poured it, I was like, it's kind of closed. It's a little funky. Gave it some air. Boy, in 25 minutes, the difference this creature has made.
True.
Doc Cinsaut.
It's an ancient grape, maybe from Hérault, H-E-R-A-U-L-T, from the south of France, from Montpellier. Part of Pinotage, that's very successful blending in South Africa with Pinot Noir. Again, lots of strawberry and very chewy, very perfumed.
You see the structural difference between the Counoise and that jumps right up.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah. This has some cardamom, pomegranate, nectarine, just wonderful.
I'm getting a fair hint of violet, like wood violet in here. I don't know if people are familiar with the old-fashioned violet hard candies that used to be around, but that hard, they're not super sweet, but they've got that violet edge that's almost obnoxious, but it's right there. That's what it reminds me of. Bobby, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely that violet was one of the characteristics that showcased like immediately. Very, very perfumey. Yeah, that kind of that little bit of that forest floor characteristic is showcasing as well.
Where do you find it falling off on your palate? I would be interested to hear both of your opinions. Where on the palate does this wine hit?
The back, yeah.
In the back?
Yeah, mid palate, it kind of goes away and then it sneaks right back up.
Yeah, I find it at 2, 4, 5, 6. It's not initially right there, but at 2, I start to get the fruit, and then suddenly I'm getting, especially on that retro nasal, I'm getting that finish, and it's almost harsh edged on the finish.
Yeah, it's very intense, very, very.
Yeah.
It's Rich.
like a dark roast toasted coffee note that just kind of
Right.
comes right up there.
It's almost like a piece of candy. I mean, it's so strong.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, wouldn't that be great if Jolly Rancher made a Cinsaut Jolly Rancher?
It may happen.
Hey, maybe we could visit the Jelly Belly factory this year and ask them to make wine flavored Jelly Bellies.
Because you had mentioned that with the Zinfandel.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, there years ago, there was actually somebody who put together the Jelly Belly flavors to make a replication of like a Russian River Zinfandel or a North Coast Pinot Noir. You know, at one point in time, you had to have 23 jelly beans in your mouth to get that flavor. It was really difficult for me to get all those jelly beans in my mouth, but I did it.
Yeah, it becomes a game. You just
All right. It's like 16 bigger than a big goal. Yeah.
so this is from talent. So we went from high plains, and then to hill country. So, and this one has always struck me because it's like it's at 15.2% alcohol, and it doesn't burn. It doesn't have that heat to it.
Right.
And it's just so exciting.
Yeah, Lynn mentions back of the tongue in tannin, and yes, Lynn, absolutely. That's where I think that almost harsh edge is coming from.
Yeah, no, this is a fun wine.
It's more cherry than strawberry, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's very cherry. So what do you think in comparison to the two so far?
I think they're so different.
Yeah.
You know, the delicacy of the Counoise is really apparent, but it was shifting from one to the other. This is just richer, more intense.
Right.
And I think this is a great blending grape, no two ways about it.
So alcohol is not very prevalent in this, is it? When you taste it?
No.
No.
But
Yeah. It's over
it may be-
50%.
Yeah, part of the punch on the palate though is probably for that.
Yeah, I think on the back end, yeah, probably, but the heat isn't there, and you know it is over 15%. So, which is very interesting for this wine.
Right. Speaking of how the Counoise almost looks like table grapes, when I saw this come in as well, I was shocked by the size of the size of the Cinsaut as well, and that it's really big, but it
is
packs such a huge flavor to it, and which is so fun.
I like that dry perfume edge on the nose.
Right.
Yeah, it's really nice. You guys are going to have to really come up with some great foods to pair with this. I'm just saying. I have one.
Mm.
Yeah, I like the Cinsaut. So you know we do use the Cinsaut, not just on its own, but we have put it into a couple of blends, and I know the Prairie Roti's got Cinsaut in it, and we did use a little tiny amount of the Cinsaut in the GSM blend as well that we put out for the general marketplace. So it's been an extraordinarily handy grape to have in our palette, our color palette.
Well, that GSM combination is pretty fab, I think, John. Yeah, amazing. All right, should we go to Carignan?
I think the Carignan to finish up with this bold beauty.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Back up to the high plains with the Ready Vineyards.
Well, I've noticed about Carignan over the years too, at a certain age, it almost goes straw or hay-like before it finishes its maturation and then comes up and out of it. And at 4.5 years old, You know, it's got a bit of straw, a bit of herbaceousness is very forward on the nose on this one.
You know, this has been at times the most widely planted grape in France.
Mhm.
Certainly 50, 60, 80 years ago.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of the French wine was Carignan.
But, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the Carignan, doesn't that originate in the northeastern corner of Spain? This is,
Well, there's evidence that it's a Phoenician origin in the 9th century BC.
Yep.
Then by the Romans through Sardinia, through Spain, and into France. Great expression in Priorat with this grape.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
There's a Carignan Blanc, a Carignan Gris.
Well, the Carignan has made it into our rosé program in the past.
Right.
And what I think is funny is I truly believe it's the Carignan that's given some of the Jolie its structure.
I believe that.
Yeah.
It has a bit of cultural characteristics, late budding, which is not so bad in Texas,
Right.
but very late ripening. Clusters very close to the trunk,
Yes.
not out on, you know, on the cordon, and so it makes it difficult to harvest. The grape size is not as large as some of the others. Is that right, John, or no?
Yeah, I mean it's larger than the Bordeaux varietals, but yeah, it's certainly not as large as the Counoise.
Mm-hmm.
So it think of it as about the same size, maybe slightly larger than a Zinfandel grape. So we really do, in order to get, you know, this structure color out of it, we do have to saignée the Carignan. There's too many S sounding names and letters in tonight's lineup. I feel like I should develop a lisp.
Francis Robinson says of it, it's a curious grape, tedious to grow, exceptionally productive, harsh tannins you have to deal with.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure I agree with all that.
Well,
It's not 2 years of an expensive oak. You will calm anybody down except the owner.
you just hit the nail on the head there, pal. Yeah, we did have to do some tannin management with this grape for sure.
Good to do some grapes and barrel management.
Mm.
Owner management, I think, is what.
Yeah, no. I limit my skills to grape wrangling. Ooh, you know, on the mid palate there, it starts to come out as pepper, and I like that.
Yeah,
Almost like the same pepperishness that a Zinfandel displays, a good Zin.
Mm-hmm.
Tell
this
this
is
went through malactic fermentation,
more drinkable by itself than the Cinsaut to my palate.
right?
This and the Counoise are the two that I think specific is.
Right.
Yeah, I would say drink the Carignan, you know, now in the next year, for sure. I think it's at its peak.
Yeah.
It may last a little longer, and I'm willing to be wrong about that, but I think people really enjoy it. It needs to be decanted. I would say at least an hour of decant time before service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun.
It is. It is. Well, you know, we went through these 3 Cs. We pretty much sold them out. I mean, we've got library selections for release later, but
Right.
I think, aren't they pretty much out of the winery now, Bobby?
They are. Carignan, we're still tasting in the tasting room, but Cinsaut has been pulled, and then Counoise has also been pulled, and just how it's been showcasing. I thought it'd be fun to just revisit these once again and to see how they've developed and share them with everybody.
Mhm. Absolutely.
John, Counoise behind this in barrel. What years do we have?
Well, we actually have the 18 Counoise blended, ready to be bottled. And then we have a little bit of, we've got some 19 Counoise. I don't think I have much, if any, of the 20, and I know I have some 21 Counoise. But 20 was a pretty hard year. But yeah, we got a bit in the 19 that's phenomenally nice right now. And then earmarking some of that for a couple of our big blends that we have coming up. Our next Saturday meeting is going to be filled with lots of good wines.
I'm for it.
And we need to let Margaret know that she has to taste. So,
That's cool.
I think she'll be up for it.
So there's a vegetal note that I'm picking up.
yes,
The Carignan.
yeah.
I'm kind of like on the edge of like olive or bell pepper kind
Yeah.
of.
It's a little disjointed right now, and that happens with Carignan at a certain age. This will actually tone down, but the fruit is there still too. And you decant, a little oxygen will help bind some of that up. But yeah, absolutely, very, very astute. There is a bit of vegetative edge. When I first opened this, I got a lot of hay or straw out of there, that vegetative edge.
Right.
That has calmed down in the last 45 minutes or so.
Yeah. But it's a really nice wine, and sitting at what, 12.9?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's
It's not too bad. The Cinsaut is always the shocker to me, how high in alcohol that is.
right.
That's because it hangs out so long. Yeah.
Yeah. Cinsaut liqueur. Gary asks you, Doc, what do you call it when the cluster is growing away from the trunk?
I guess out of the cordons,
Right.
Yeah. Usually, and that's usually the case. Usually there's a cluster at each node.
Yeah.
And this tends to grow them closer to the trunk. I guess that's and I guess it's interesting. And I've never harvested that grape to see, but
Do you think because it grows so close to the trunk that that's why it ripens a little later, because it's so?
I don't know that. No, I don't know.
Lynn asked, is Carignan also a good blending grape and single varietal? Did you say this is 100% or a blend? This is actually all Carignan, Lynn. So yeah, the 3 C's were done in order to display the characteristic of each one of those grapes. Not always done as a single varietal, not always done as a single bottling. So we did this more or less as a educational fun wine for each one of those. We did not make a lot of cases of each, just about 400 cases of each varietal to put out at the winery. And we did this in order to share something that we normally don't get to share with people. And it takes an exceptional year for some of these blending grapes to really shine. They're great in blends, almost always, as long as they've had a decent growing year. But an exceptional year like 2017 really allowed these to be put forward as a single varietal.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Have you guys been thinking about food? Because I have been really thinking about food.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to see any of these at a turkey and dressing Christmas dinner. I think they'd line up nicely. Yeah. I think Counoise might be my favorite in that context, but that'd be fun to see.
I'm thinking of Michaelmas traditional Irish roasted goose with apple and potato stuffing.
Yeah, how was that?
Yeah, sorry?
Did you make goose at Christmas?
No, I did not. I did make a mimosa though. Does that count? Yeah, this is a great cookbook, by the way. Yeah. So it's got some really nice traditional Irish recipes in there. But
Guinness and soda bread.
Guinness and soda bread is a complete meal. I don't care what anybody says. Plus, if you put a scoop of vanilla ice cream in the Guinness at the end of the meal, it's dessert.
I'm with you.
That sounds fun to me.
Okay, Bobby, what do you think food wise?
Oh, I was thinking like almost seafood.
Yeah.
Maybe like oysters on a half shell, or even like I don't know, just something nice and light, easy. Maybe like a seafood pasta.
Mhm.
Then on the other end, I was thinking maybe like Doc was mentioning earlier, Tex-Mex. So I think Tex-Mex would go well. Some tamales and chili.
The homemade tamales in San Antonio with especially any of these wines. Counoise would be my choice.
Yeah.
That would be so. Yeah, so I think every refrigerator, half of them in San Antonio will have a hogshead in it beginning sometime mid December, and that's used to produce the homemade tamales.
Mhm.
And it's I'd like to have a bottle of Counoise next to
You know,
it.
I bet this Carignan would go great with tamales and mole sauce.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Sam mentions we had French onion soup and with the Cinsaut was great match. I wonder if the high alcohol had anything to do with that. No, Sam, it was just great onion soup.
That's cool.
Jane mentions we're having scalloped potatoes with leftover Christmas ham. I have no idea if the Carignan is the best wine to pair with this simple dish, but we love it so, and we're having it. Then it is the perfect wine to pair. You hit, Jane, on the number one rule. If you like it, then it is the perfect wine for it. So,
Cool.
absolutely.
That's it.
So I'm thinking the Carignan might go very well with boiled cabbage and bacon. So,
Cornbread.
yeah, more bread.
I mean, and the black-eyed peas.
And
Yeah,
black
the
eyed
cornbread and black-eyed peas. I wonder when that was going to raise its head. Don't forget the side of greens.
Hopping John, I think is what it's called. Yeah.
Hot and John.
Yeah. So, Bobby, what do we have online for next week? What's next week's tasting?
Next week, so we're going to be doing white Rhone varietals.
Oh,
So we've got the 2019 Prairie Cuvée. We have the 2019 RVM.
okay.
We have our 2018 Roussanne.
Oh,
So I thought
yes.
that would be fun to taste through the blend of the Rhone varietals and then a single Rhone varietal together. And yeah, I think that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that'll be great. You know, I'm taking this Carignan doc to present at the Hill Country Symposium at the end of January. So we're doing Spanish varietals grown in Texas. So
Wow.
yeah, it'll be kind of fun.
I expect it'll do well. Excited.
I
I'll
hope
be
so.
there in the audience.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Okay.
All righty.
Thanks
So-
a lot.
Any other news from Lake Wobegon, Bobby?
I hope everybody has a safe and happy New Year.
Absolutely.
Please be safe. If you have our wines with you, I hope you enjoy them with friends and family and make many memories to enjoy, to share in the coming New Year this weekend. So, and on that note, here's to good health, great wine, great friendship, and we'll see you next year. Right?
Absolutely. I'll cheers to that. I'll have it. I saw Margaret's glass back there.
Oh, there it was. Cheers, everybody. Appreciate y'all.
Cheers.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Want to mention this?